Good morning, party people. It's Lisa Knox, owner and founder of Knox Law Mediation, jumping in to say hey and share my thoughts. So today, I don't know when this is going to be released, but today is September 19th of 2025, and that is a very big day. It's a day for me personally, and it's a big day for our firm and our team because today is our birthday. Yay! Like 6 years ago, September 19th of 2019, Knox Law and Mediation was born. And I mean that when I say born, I mean like born. So today the team thought it would be great to sort of tell the story, and I can't help but think about how it's like, when you're kids and you talk to your parents and you're like, tell me about the day I was born. So today I'm going to tell you all about the day that Knox Law and Mediation was born. And to be very clear, this is completely unscripted. I'm just talking to you all from my heart. There's a bunch of emotions I have, some of which I can't even put into word or space or name. And I don't know what's going to come out. All I know is that it's going to be the raw, honest truth, because that's what we do here on Lisa Talks. We just give the raw, honest truth and we throw it out there and then we let you all feel however, you all feel about it. And those are your feelings to have. So we're vulnerable, we're open, there's strength and vulnerability. So I'm just saying that now because if you hear me sobbing, do not judge me, judge your mama. All right, so let's take it back. September 19th of 2019. So that was the day that the firm was born. I can't actually say that that was the day that the firm was conceived, though. And I say that because this firm, like many great things, right? This firm started on just faith in hearing a voice, and I don't care what you call your voice. It can be your gut, your intuition, universe, ancestors, God, Roger, Lillian, whatever you want to call it, right? For me, I call it the voice of God in my spirit, right? And so I was sitting down one day and my spirit basically let me know it's time to go ahead and start. And you have to understand where I was. I was in a very comfortable position. I was with a firm of people that I love to this day. I was, in an apartment that was just so cute. And my son and I had our little routine and so forth. And it just what? And I literally heard God say, these are the things I want you to do. And part of that was, first I'm going to bring you the house, then I'm going to bring you the business. And I'm like, what do you mean? I thought maybe I'm having a breakdown or something, because my mother had passed away recently, right before that conversation. And I was like, well, maybe this is it. Maybe this is when I am going to crash out because I've lost my mom. But I know that this voice is familiar to me and I didn't have anything to lose to say, okay, well, you know what, God, if this is what you want, make it happen. And my God, did things happen in the wildest of ways. And so things ended up happening where it was like, hey, I just get random, messages like, okay, it's time to go ahead and put in your notice. And I'm like, put in my notice for why? Like everything's going good. And it was, I'll put in my notice at the end of the year. And it was, no, you're not going to hear them say Merry Christmas as an employee there. And I thought, okay, well, I'll put in my notice at the end, of this quarter. And it was like, no, you're not even going to hear them say happy birthday. I'm telling you what I need you to do. And it didn't make sense. Like, why uproot everything? I'm a single mom. Why uproot everything? But once again, things went into play and I just had to follow along. And so remember, the promise was first the house. I had a house in Orlando. I'm like, I don't understand. Well, I had to sell my house. Things just happened where I had to sell my house. And the funniest thing is I listed my house for sale. There was a delay on the sale of the house. I ended up selling the house. Finally, after the delay was resolved, I ended up selling the house. I got my check for the sale of my house on Friday. I went looking for a new house to buy on Sunday, and I put in an offer on a house Sunday afternoon. Monday, I was told I need to put in a higher offer. That's a whole other story. We'll talk to you about another podcast about faith and buying a house, but I was told I need to put in a higher offer. I didn't have any higher to go. So it's another leap of faith, right? And by that Monday evening, I learned that my offer had been accepted. Actually, that Tuesday, I learned that my offer had been accepted. And in between that time, between the Sunday that I originally put in the offer and the day that I closed, which was only 19 days, I had a whirlwind of experiences. I lost a close family member. My family was sort of, thrown up into the air. Situations happened to where I literally had no choice but to move on and state out loud that, I'm going to start my own firm. I don't know why it's set up that way, but I do know why, because God said that's what's going to happen, right? And I had an out-of-state funeral, and my son was going through stuff at school. And in those 19 days, it was like so crazy. And all of that, I closed on the house. And when I closed on the house, it was like, okay, that's one thing down. I couldn't even tell anyone that I closed on the house, though, because everything else was in such upheaval. And so, I didn't move in for like a month because I was just trying to get everything else in order. And the day that I moved into my house was the day that was my last day at my job. And side note, I had a moving company. They tried to hustle me and left my stuff on the truck and was like, you need to pay us another $800 before we'll take it off. Not that I had that much stuff on the truck anyways. That's a whole other note we'll talk about later. And at 11:30 at night, that's when we finally got situated enough, not to where anything made sense or where anything was unpacked or anything like that, but just situated enough to where I could get my kid off the bed because he had school the next day. And I sat down and I took a deep breath and I was like, okay, God, here I am. I have this big mortgage. I have no job now. I have a law firm with no clients now. And I have my trusty 4 or 5-year-old laptop and a raggedy cell phone. That's what I got. And you said it was time for me to go. And so I needed to go. Go Power Rangers up in here. And I sat down at 11:30 on my floor because I didn't have anything in my office. It was just the space where my office would be. And I registered Knox Law and Mediation. And I got the website address and I did whatever little things I could do in preparation and expectation that this business is going to be a go. And I think I was walking more so on faith than confident, very much more so on faith than confident. But I still had to walk because I had nothing else to lose at that point, right? And I stayed up all night working on it. And I came, in the morning I took my son to school and I came home and I worked some more on it. And I sort of worked on, let's create a logo, let's all the things that I knew that I would need as a firm. And I gave a lot of thought and consideration to, what am I doing now and how would that affect the future? What do I want the future to look like? And I didn't know, y'all gonna have to excuse my French. I didn't know shit from Shanola about what I wanted the future to look like because I never ran a law firm before, I just knew that I needed longevity, I needed longevity. And I remember that first day I spent maybe the first 4 hours of the day crying and sobbing and woe is me. I gave myself a good 4 hours. I cooked a pot of grits and cried and sobbed in my grits because this was crazy. And then I got down to it. And I created some stuff, some plans, and just went with it. And thank God, I got some clients and they came and I was like, okay, every day, is another day closer to being able to survive. And that was just my prayer, like in the beginning. Dear God, just make it to where I can pay my regular bills for my kid. That's it. Just make it to where, even if I got to negotiate some bills, I can make that happen. We won't go hungry. And I remember thinking to myself and saying to a friend, well, it's a good thing that, I bought my house before I started this business. One, because it's really hard, starting a business and trying to buy a house. But two, it's harder to put you out of a mortgage than it is to put you out of a rental agreement. Sometimes you got to laugh just to keep from crying. And that was my thing. Like, okay, I know it's going to take them at least 6 months to get me out of this mortgage. That's 6 months to hustle, and that's what happened. I mean, when I tell you there was long days and long nights and a lot of small decisions that you have to make that you never thought you had to make. Like, I didn't have the money starting out. I didn't have the money for like a brick and mortar office, and everyone was telling me, you gotta have a brick and mortar office. And I went into my little office space I have in my house, my little unfurnished office space. And I sat down and I was like, God, I got to have a brick and mortar space. And I heard just as clear, no, you don't. Who said that? You got internet. You're good. You got internet. All you need is internet and a laptop. I gave you what you need. Get to it. Get after it. Okay. And so I said to myself, I'm going to have a virtual firm. And, I would say it to people just to sort of like test the waters and test the reactions. And everybody was like, good luck with that. Like, nobody's going to take you seriously if they're not meeting you in your office every day. And you're not going to have staff that's going to be able to do everything. So what, you're going to do everything? And I was like, but really, in reality, in the beginning, I did do everything. Like, I was the janitor and the lawyer and the mover and the shaker and the candlestick maker. Like, I was in that thing working 27 hours a day, 9 days a week. You know, I was answering the phones. By the way, confession time. If anybody has called my office before and spoke to Lorna with LM Knox Law and Mediation, congratulations, you are meeting Lorna with LM Knox Law and Mediation. That was me. But you know, what law firm did not have somebody to answer the phone? And I was coming in, you know, you got to fake it till you make it. So that was the case. And Lorna had her own email address and I had my own email address, and all of it was my email address. Like, well, you got to fake it till you make it, you know? And I'll tell you, you know, it was really eye-opening, because those first 90 days was a mess. The first 90 days was a mess because I was dealing with setting up a business. I was dealing with moving into a new home and unpacking and trying to make my house a home, meeting my neighbors, which was a challenge of all its own. Needless to say, I was one of very few, if any, young people in this neighborhood, and that's not the least of it, you know. And I say that, but there's a saying in my community that, you know, people move in a moving truck, they move out in a hearse. And that's the case. Like, that is really the case. People they don't move out unless they go to glory. But that's neither here nor there. So I'm trying to make my house a home. I'm trying to, you know, do all these things. I'm trying to get my son adjusted because he had to go to a new school, you know. And of course, you know, as preteens are wanting to do, I ruined his life by changing everything, moving from where he had friends and all that to, you know, essentially 2 miles up the road. But I ruined his life, so I had to deal with that. And I remember my birthday came along. My birthday is in October. I remember my birthday came along, and I was sitting down on this, you know, office floor. And by that time, I moved an old sofa into the office. I was sitting down on the old sofa, and I was thinking to myself, what in the heck are you thinking, Lisa? And I was like, you know what? It's okay. It's okay. I got enough savings to make it through for this month. We're going to be fine. I don't know how we're going to be fine, but we're going to be fine. But what the heck were you thinking? And I remember saying, go to Indeed and just see what's available. You know, maybe you want to see what's available out there. And then I was like, that's wasting time. Let's get back to work. And life goes on. And it was, you know, slow months, but I had client, didn't have a lot of overhead, was able to make the ends meet, didn't make them kiss. They weren't kissing and making out, but they, you know, they were cordial and they met. They shook each other's hand. My ends did. And I remember in December, a lot of things had taken place in between September and December. And it was so much going on. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't know how I survived it, but God. But you know what? We'll really go hard in 2020. We will really go hard in 2020. There's no stopping us. That's where I'm going to be able to unleash and really see what's going on, because I'm not going to have to do setting up of a business in 2020. I'm going to be, you know, established and so forth. And I was so excited. And I remember talking with my friend about that and how I was so excited and all. You know, I'm going to really knock 2020 out. And then 2020 came, and January, I was like, okay, it's a slow month. That's fine. January is always slow in family law. You know, just the first part of January. Let's recover from the holidays. February came along, and I was like, I'm feeling sort of achy. I don't know why, but you know, okay. And then March came, and y'all know what happened March of 2020. And everyone was like, you know, Lisa, can't you do a PPP loan or something? And I'm like, no, because they want to know your income, how much income your business brought in and all that. And I'm like, you know, 2 times 0 is 0. Like, what? And people were saying, well, Lisa, you know, maybe you should try and find a job, or maybe you should do this, or maybe you should do that. And I heard my spirit God say, just stay the course. I'm not a liar. So we stayed the course. And, you know, I was really blessed to get some really supportive people in the village. Everybody needs a village. Side note, everybody needs a village. Like, you got to have a village. You got to have people who are rooting for you and who are cheering you on, who are maniacs for you. You know, when people are maniacs, like, it doesn't matter what goes on or, you know, what's in their way, they're going after that. They're maniacal about it. They got to go and get it. You need people who are maniacs about you. They are in your corner. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense. Damn it, it's going to happen. It doesn't matter if they can see the end. They believe in you, so they believe in it. I've been really blessed to have some real maniacs in my village, and I'm so blessed to be a maniac in their village. But God brought me to some people and through some people and so forth, and lessons that were learned and people who taught me things, how to be better about things, how to look at things from an owner's perspective, how not to get involved, with certain things that would just get me off course. That was excellent. So, my village, everyone was saying, well, Lisa, maybe you need to try to find a job or whatever. And what about your baby? And my village was like, go for it. What do we need to do? Do we need to answer phones? Okay, we can answer phones. You need us to draft up some stuff? Okay. You need us to type up some stuff? Okay. You need a notary? Okay. Let's get it popping. They were maniacs. And nothing was by coincidence and happenstance. And I will tell you that 2020 was like a make or break year. It really was. And when I tell you that year made LM Knox Law Mediation, like, oh my gosh, we met some fabulous people. We had some fabulous experiences. The pandemic was hard for a lot of people, and this does not discount anybody else's experience with the pandemic. But I will tell you what, the pandemic was a catapult for our law firm, because remember, God had said, start this thing virtually. Well, we were ahead of the curve. And we already had systems in place for virtual. So that was perfect timing. And I will say that first year we grew double what we made in 2019. And we've been doubling ever since in people, in systems, in opportunities, in experiences, and growth personally and professionally. And I guess this is where I am going to be emotional, because in thinking about it, I have grown so much as a person. Who I am today is not who I was yesterday. And it's not who I'm going to be tomorrow. This journey has been filled with winding roads and so forth. And it's been such a big blessing, because through it all, lights have not been cut off, not for lack of non-payment. These hurricanes and these storms are another thing, but the lights have stayed on. The food has been in the refrigerator. My son, his life is no longer ruined. He's now happily in college. We have a great team. We've always had a great team. Those who have come, and been part of our team, we thank you. Nathi and Sage and Lisa and Dendo and Des and Diane and Chris and Allison and Jessica, not to forget Ava. Thank you. Thank you so much. I can't imagine where my life would be right now, and I don't want to imagine it. We've done some good work. We've done a lot with our clients. We've gotten to love on our clients and give them what we could and maybe what they've needed. God knows they've given us what we've needed outside of monetarily, benefiting, but more so, the connections, the relationships, our legal community. Shout out to Legals and to Fred G. Menace and George Edgecombe and Hillsborough County Bar Association, and our referrals, people who referred business to us. Our colleagues who have said, keep going. It's been a lot, our community touch points, Sylvia Thomas Center, Hillsborough House of Hope, Josie's House of Help, Papu's Mouth. It's our pleasure. The Angel Organization, it's our pleasure to serve in the community, to be active in the community, to have an impact, and hopefully a positive impact. That's our prayer in the community. And for this firm to be a vehicle, to be a blessing to someone else, because it's definitely changed our lives. This firm has helped, like I said, feed my child and pay for tuition, and several others on the team, and, changed team members' lives and afforded us opportunities that we never thought we'd be able to have. And it all started from one promise and one leap of faith, sitting on an empty office space with an old computer, an old cell phone, and faith. You never know where your life will take you. And sometimes you just have to be willing to go. And I am so grateful that I went. I can't even imagine what's going to happen in the future. I have goals for the future, but I also know there's magic out there, and this journey is going to take us to it. So, thank you. Thank you for coming on this journey with us for these past 6 years. Thank you for going on this journey with me today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing your stories. your growth, your challenges. I guess if I can give you one piece of advice from this crazy ride that I've gone on so far, it's, do it scared. Do it afraid. Go on the journey. I love y'all. God bless y'all. We'll talk to y'all soon. Until then, in the meantime, in between time, be kind and take care of you and yours and other people too. All right. Sign off.